Hey guys, this is Josh here with Trillium Wild Edibles, and today we're going to talk about 6 wild edibles that are native to the eastern United States, as well as some of their features and their uses. While these plants are native to the eastern United States, some can also be found in the central portion of the country. So with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Coming in at number 6, we have the Mayapple, or Podophyllum pellatum as it's known by its scientific name. The Mayapple is a small, colonizing plant with very large, umbrella-like leaves and a white flower. This wild edible is popular among people for making jams and jellies because of its unique and citrus-like flavor. The jam is made using the fruits which ripen in late summer to early fall. Its common name Mayapple comes from the fact that the plant consistently will flower in May and not when its fruit ripens. It can be found in most of the eastern U.S. and Canada, with a range from Maine to Texas, where it usually grows in rich forest land. While the fully ripe fruit is edible and quite delicious, the rest of the plant, including unripe fruit, are deadly poisonous. So this is one plant to exercise extreme caution until you know exactly what you are doing with it. Sprouting in at number 5, we have the small and delicate spring beauty, or Claytonia virginica by its scientific name. This plant has a range that's similar to, but a bit smaller than the Mayapple. In the United States, it is reported absent in New England and Florida, as well as being absent in portions of Canada, but nonetheless, where it grows, it usually grows very well. This wild edible fairy spud, as it's otherwise known, is another colonizing plant with long, narrow, almost grass-like leaves and a beautiful pinkish white flower. The name fairy spud comes from the small, delicious corms that look like and have a taste reminiscent of potatoes. The term fairy is for their very small size, which is about the size of a fingernail. Flowering in the early spring, as its other name implies, most will encounter this while morel hunting or hiking, so be sure to keep an eye out. Right in at number 4 is the Star Chickweed, or by its scientific name, Stellaria pubera. The Star Chickweed is related to the Common Chickweed and mouse-ear chickweed, and looks somewhat similar as well. Its large white flowers have the indicative split in the petals that makes it appear there are 10, and this feature is much easier to see than it is on Common Chickweed. The Star Chickweed is absent in New England and only has a few scattered populations west of the Mississippi, so its range is much smaller than some other plants on this list, but it's one of the only chickweeds native to the eastern United States. Being edible in the same ways that common chickweed is, it can be a bit tougher when eaten raw, especially if gathered later in the year, at which point boiling might be more preferable for some. Standing in at number 3 is the wood nettle, or as it's known by its scientific name, Laportea canadensis. This wild edible is a relative to the better-known stinging nettle, which is an introduced plant from Europe. The native wood nettle has similar features and a rather similar appearance to its field-growing cousin. However, like the name implies, this plant grows in the woods in rich, moist bottomlands. The leaves of wood nettle are large and ovate with teeth running down the margin of the leaf. It also has stinging hairs that are known as urticating hairs all over the plant, which become rendered inactive after boiling or being submerged in hot water. As a wild edible, it is one of the best tasting wild greens that you can forage, with a mild taste that's unique to them. The protein and mineral-rich wood nettle has another use also because it makes excellent cordage or rope and has been used over thousands of years for this purpose. Rooting its way in at number 2 is the beautiful and unique cut leaf toothwort, or Cardamine concatenala by its scientific name. This native wild edible has a range across the entire eastern and central United States, being present from the Dakotas to Texas all the way to New England. It gets part of its name from the shape of its edible rhizome, which looks similar to a tooth, and the other part of its name from its noticeably cut leaves. The edible rhizome is just below the soil and tastes very similar to domestic horseradish, being pungent and peppery in flavor. The leaves are cut into 3 to 5 leaflets with teeth along their sides, and its small but beautiful pinkish white flowers will grow in clusters with 4 petals. Flowering in the early spring, this is another plant that one can expect to see while morel hunting in the eastern United States, as it frequently shares a lot of the same habitats. Branching in at number 1 is the fragrant Spicebush or Lindera benzoin, which has a range from Maine to Michigan to Texas, yet being absent in Minnesota and Wisconsin, and absent in most of Canada. This wild edible is very unassuming until you smell it, as it just looks like a regular bush, but has a smell of allspice with just a hint of sassafras. The leaves, twigs, and bark are all usable for making teas, syrups, and dessert sauces by simply boiling in water for a few minutes. The berries themselves can be dried out and then crushed to form a seasoning, similar to allspice, for use in baking. In colonial times, this plant was commonly used among frontier families for teas and seasonings, but has been kind of lost to us today. The spicebush likes moist woodland, sharing habitats with many other plants on this list, and is a great wild edible to look for while hiking or foraging in the spring. Okay, there's 6 wild edibles that are native to the eastern United States you guys can go find and start adding to your diet. These plants are easy to identify and, with the exception of the mayapple, rather safe and easy to prepare. Also, if you want to learn how to identify any of these plants, I have made identification videos on them, which you can find the links to those in the description down below. I thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something. If you want to learn more about wild edibles or medicinal plants, please make sure to subscribe.